l'a dit plusieurs fois, c'est...
Mais les contrats sont beaucoup plus importants que ce qui a été rapporté lundi par le vérificatrice générale.
Tout à fait, tout à fait. Non. Donc, il faut bien séparer les deux choses. Ce que la vérificatrice générale a trouvé lundi est inacceptable, malgré tout le contexte difficile que l'on sait qui a été vécu par les Canadiens et par beaucoup d'autres lors de la COVID-19. Ça, c'est une chose qu'il faut mettre au clair. Ces constats sont inacceptables. La bonne nouvelle, c'est que beaucoup des choses qu'elle demande de faire ont déjà commencé à être mises en place depuis novembre dernier, à partir du moment où le gouvernement canadien a compris que dans la gestion d'ArriveCAN, il y avait un manque flagrant de bonne tenue de compte et de bonne gestion et de partage d'informations. La deuxième chose, c'est que pour les contrats de GC Strategies, qui est une des entreprises qui a été enquêtée par la vérificatrice générale, les contrats avec cette entreprise ont été suspendus depuis novembre 2023, à peu près au même temps, au même moment où la vérificatrice générale a commencé. Ça s'applique à l'Agence de la sécurité des services frontaliers, donc tout ce qui relève de mon collègue le ministre Leblanc. Pour plus de prudence, les contrats tous les contrats de GC Strategies ont été ici suspendus depuis novembre 2023 pour permettre à mon ministère et au ministère de M. Leblanc de faire des travaux appropriés, de s'assurer que les enjeux qui ont été soulevés par la vérificatrice générale lundi ne soient pas des enjeux plus larges pour les relations contractuelles avec GC Strategies. Mais par prudence, parce que pour l'instant, il n'y a pas de signe, il n'y a pas de détails ou d'indications que ce qu'on a noté lundi s'étend à d'autres aspects contractuels avec GC Strategies, mais par prudence, tous les contrats avec GC Strategies sont suspendus depuis novembre 2023.
Nous dire sur GC Strategies, est-ce que c'est une compagnie fiable qui fait vraiment du travail?
Bien, on note évidemment des constats troublants, non seulement pour GC Strategies, parce qu'il y a d'autres entreprises qui ont travaillé avec ArriveCAN pour lesquelles des informations insuffisantes ont été collectées et entreposées à l'Agence des services frontaliers. Donc, ce n'est pas juste une entreprise, ce sont plusieurs entreprises pour lesquelles la gestion des informations a été malheureusement défaillante. Et c'est pour ça qu'on a agi il y a déjà plusieurs mois et qu'on va continuer à mettre en place toutes les recommandations de la vérificatrice générale. Et plus largement, à nouveau, pour être très prudent, en particulier avec GC Strategies, depuis novembre 2023, tous les contrats avec l'entreprise ont été suspendus pour permettre à...
Est-ce que cette entreprise est ouverte dans votre gouvernement pour les consultants?
C'est un enjeu plus large. Mais je me focalise aujourd'hui sur GC Strategies pour à nouveau répéter que par prudence, depuis novembre 2023, les contrats avec GC Strategies ont été interrompus pour que, au sein de l'Agence des services frontaliers en particulier, on puisse faire le point sur la qualité des contrats, la qualité des informations qui ont pu être accordées et accumulées au cours des dernières années.
Dernière question.
Donc, il y aura d'autres... Il y aura d'autres choses, évidemment, qui vont suivre au cours des prochaines semaines, à partir du moment où, à l'interne, les enquêtes nécessaires et importantes auront été complétées. Merci.
C'est pas acceptable.
C'est pas acceptable?
Pas du tout.
Comment vous expliquez que votre gouvernement a donné autant de contrats à cette entreprise qui semble être dirigée par deux individus obscurs dans un sous-sol?
J'ai entendu les faits aussi. Et le témoignage de hier aussi. Premièrement, c'est pas acceptable, la situation-là. Et s'il y a des règles qu'on n'a pas suivies, on doit avoir l'investigation. Et je sais que mes collègues à l'approvisionnement Canada et aussi Public Safety, ils vont le faire. It's so important for us to ensure that processes are followed. And I know that there's an investigation going on, and I know that we will take the correct action once we have the results of that investigation. But I agree, it is not acceptable.
Merci beaucoup. You said yesterday that they still don't know what's going on. Can you give an update?
Well, you know, it's industry, so we obviously want to make sure that the grocery code of conduct is one of the key elements to bring price stability. We've heard that from independent grocers, and why don't they take leadership and gather the other grocers that have been a bit more reluctant so far. But there will be a code of conduct in grocery one way or the other. So I would play it back to them and say, show leadership, show that you care about Canadian consumers, show that you can influence your other colleagues to make sure that they bring on board the code, because this is to reestablish balance between small producers, farmers, and the big grocers. So I would invite them to show leadership.
Are you still willing to legislate the code? Have you taken any steps in that
Everything
direction?
is on the table, because what Canadians have been asking us is to take all the measures we can to stabilize prices, and we've heard from the independent grocers, we heard from farmers, we've heard from the small and medium-sized producers that they need that to reestablish a sense of balance when they negotiate. So I'm happy to hear that Costco is eager, so let's have them take leadership and show they care about Canadians.
Is there a deadline, though? Because this has been months and months of them bickering back and forth, and
trust
they're
me.
not taking
I'm not the guy to be really patient. So, but on the other end, it's industry-led. So one way, what we've been doing with Minister McCall is to push, talking also with our provincial colleagues to make sure that they also put the necessary pressure, because Canadians are waiting. So it's not. I would say to everyone in the industry, show Canadians that you care, show Canadians that you're taking concrete steps, and show Canadians that what we said when we met, that we would work together as Team Canada to help Canadians, is happening. If not, we've seen before in other things. You remember when the grocers, we had the market study, it came back, it was not adequate, then we legislated. And we took more measures. So I would say, I think the message is clear. We expect them to do the right thing, and if they don't, well, obviously, we'll have to look at options.
Votre ministère a donné des contrats à GC Strategies. On apprend que c'est en tout 258 millions depuis 2015 que le gouvernement accordait à cette entreprise-là, qui n'a pas vraiment de bureau à Ottawa, qui est dans un bon galop.
Écoutez, on va regarder. Je suis pas au courant, vous m'apprenez cette information-là ce matin, mais c'est sûr qu'on va regarder le type de contrat qui ont pu être donnés. Puis comme ça a été dans l'affaire d'ArriveCAN, ce qu'on a dit, c'est inacceptable. Ceux qui ont commis des actes répréhensibles vont payer pour leurs actes. Il y a des enquêtes en cours et on s'attend de tous les ministères, de tous ceux qui sont impliqués dans l'octroi des contrats, dans la gestion des contrats, dans le suivi des contrats, d'avoir les meilleures pratiques. C'est l'argent des contribuables. Je peux vous dire que dans mon cas, comme l'ensemble de mes collègues du gouvernement, c'est une grande priorité de s'assurer de l'intégrité quand c'est fait. Et comme vous dites, s'il y a eu des contrats, bien, on ira vérifier pourquoi ces contrats-là sont donnés, qu'est-ce que les Canadiens ont reçu en
C'est
contrepartie.
normal qu'il n'y ait pas de lumière rouge que ce soit
Il y
Il y a 46 contrats qui ont été offerts de gré à gré. Ça, est-ce que ça vous sonne pas une sonnette d'alarme?
Bien, écoutez, effectivement, c'est pour ça qu'il y a présentement des gens qui sont en train de mener des enquêtes pour comprendre le pourquoi et le comment. Et certainement, lorsque le résultat de ces enquêtes-là seront terminés, bon, on pourra les rendre publics. Moi, je veux dire, c'est la transparence. Moi, je dis toujours, s'il y a des gens qui ont posé des actes répréhensibles, il y aura des conséquences. C'est ça, je pense que les Canadiens s'attendent. Et les gens comprennent que, vous savez, il y a une responsabilité aussi de ces gens-là qui prennent ces actions-là. Les gens comprennent que, oui, il y a plusieurs contrats comme ça dans différents ministères qui peuvent se donner, mais l'intégrité du processus, s'assurer que les Canadiens aient valeur pour l'argent qui est investi, ça, c'est fondamental. Et j'en appelle à tous ceux qui gèrent des contrats de s'assurer que tout ça, ça soit fait de la bonne façon, avec les règles de l'art, que ça respecte tous les processus.
Est-ce qu'il y a lieu d'avoir une enquête plus large? Est-ce qu'il y a lieu d'avoir une enquête?
Listen, I'm fighting every day. I am happy you asked the question. I've told you that's one of the things I'm trying to do. Is it easy? No. Am I going to succeed? I'm not sure, but it's worth trying, and that's why I'm engaging. And in my visit that we're planning for the G7, we're going to be talking also to some. The plan is to talk to some European grocers as well. So it's not something that you can flip a switch and suddenly you have more competition in the Canadian grocery market. But it's one thing that we've learned, and it's one thing that we've seen in Australia and in other jurisdictions. And we have 5 players which control 80% of the market. So I'm fighting for consumers. Like I said, is it easy? No. Are we going to succeed? Listen, I don't know, but it's worth trying. And everyone that I meet in the street say, keep on the good fight. You know, we need to see. We have all the tools in the toolbox we're putting, because affordability is top of mind. This is something that Canadians every week and every day are facing, and therefore that's why I'm putting the good fight.
What incentives are you putting on the table for American,
None.
European grocery chains?
None.
No
Let's
incentives.
be clear. None.
So we put billions on the table to get electric vehicles.
No, it's not about incentive. You know why they were not coming primarily? I'll tell you, very simple. When I talked to American CEOs, they were saying before we amended the law, that's why I say the competition reform is probably the most single significant piece of legislation to reform markets in the country. Why? Because, for example, before we adopted that, there were some restrictive covenant in leases. So in a sense, if you had one of the top grocers in one particular area, there would be restriction in the lease for any others to come and play competition to them. I spoke to one American CEO and he said, listen, we tried to rent leases, we tried to rent facilities, or let's say spots for our shops, but we could not find anyone to lease these places to us because, you know, they had all these restrictive clauses in their leases that did not allow us to come and compete. So now what I'm saying is that, you know, I explained to these CEOs that the market is changing. Canadian consumers are ready for that. They're looking for deep discounters, as they're calling them. They're looking for more choices, and they're looking for more competition. And by the same token, I said, we reform our competition law. So when you say that, I must say, so far, like I said, those that I've talked to, they were not aware of that. But when they know that, they said, oh, okay, well, let's look back. We looked at Canada before, but now if the market is changing and we can have these, you know, that the reform on competition is allowing us to be able to enter, it's more interesting. Like I said, whether we're going to succeed, I don't know, but it's not about incentive. It's about market dynamics that are changing. Consumers want that. We reformed the law, and I think there's a momentum. Listen, that's the discussion I have, and I'll be happy to keep you posted as we
Est-ce que lieu d'avoir une enquête bizarre sur strategy?
J'en sais rien, moi.
C'est pas la presse ce matin?
Non.
Est-ce que c'est le bar ouvert?
Hein? Sorry. Pardon?
Est-ce que c'est le bar ouvert pour les consultants au sein du gouvernement libéral?
You're talking about online renewals?
Yes.
There were system vulnerabilities.
100 millions de contrats qui ont été octroyés à l'entreprise, des dizaines sans appel d'offres. Est-ce que vous trouvez ça normal, vous?
Bien, écoutez, il y a des enquêtes qui sont en cours, puis on va prendre les résultats de cette enquête-là au sérieux. Bien, évidemment, là, on veut que l'argent public soit dépensé de façon responsable, puis on s'attend à ce que les protocoles pour l'octroi de contrats soient suivis là, de façon responsable.
Vous pouvez nous dire au sujet.
On l'a déjà dit, là. S'il y a quelqu'un qui a fait quelque chose qui est croche, il doit payer le prix, il va payer le prix. C'est clair, là. C'est clair.
What do you think about GC strategies that got for $258 million of contracts since 2015, since the Liberals?
Well, I mean, as the Auditor General indicated, there's issues to look at, and I know that the various instruments in government, the committee and all the other authorities will look at what actions need to be taken.
But are you worried about it? Does that concern you when you see that number?
Well, I'm concerned about the Auditor General's report. Of course.
Contracts, you know, given to GC.
I would have to see the information around those contracts, but I can tell you that, of course, as a Canadian, I'm concerned about what the Auditor General have to say. Of course.
How much is your government responsible for it?
For what?
For you know what the Auditor General described, like the fact that there is. Basically, there was like a lack of control, you know.
Well, we expect taxpayer money to be used wisely and effectively, and we will, of course, take all the reports of the Auditor General very seriously on what steps needs to be taken, and that's part of the analysis. Well, look, I mean, the fact of the matter is we had to get help to Canadians quickly. We had to keep people safe. We had to enable families to put food on the table. That was our focus, and but the Auditor General has issued her report, and we have to analyze it and make sure we take the appropriate steps to deal with that.
Do you think Canadians ought to be worried about the way money is managed by the government?
Well, look, as I said, the Auditor General issued her report, and we respect it, and we will take the appropriate measures. Thank you.
What is it being done when you said the government will not be funding roads?
That's not what I said.
Yes, it is.
Wait.
I can read it back to you.
What I have said is that the solution to our transport challenge passed by many different things, including massive investment in public transit, including investment in electrification of transportation. And of course we're funding roads. We have programs to fund roads. What we have said, and maybe I should have been more specific in the past, is that we don't have funds for large projects like the Troisième Lien that the CAQ has been trying to do for many years.
Our government has made the decision to stop investing in new road infrastructure.
I just told you that I should have been more specific in that statement and specified that it was project like the Troisième Lien, which myself and many of my colleagues have said many times that the federal government had no funds for a project like this. And you can look back and you will find numerous statements by myself and many other cabinet colleagues on this specifically.
You said we had all the roads we need. You said you had all the roads we need.
La réflexion, est-ce que vous avez une réflexion sur le fait que CG Strategies a obtenu pour presque $250 million de deniers publics pour différents contrats et qu'il y a eu 46 contrats offerts sans appel d'offres? Est-ce que ça vous préoccupe? Est-ce que vous pensez qu'on devrait faire un suivi là-dessus?
Comme plusieurs collègues l'ont dit, je pense notamment à mon collègue Jean-Yves Duclos qui est juste là, faut se rappeler qu'on était en période de pandémie et qu'il fallait aller très rapidement pour déployer des mesures. Mais s'il y a des choses qui ont été faites et qui n'ont pas été faites selon les règles, on va certainement faire les suivis nécessaires. S'il faut que la GRC enquête, bien sûr que la GRC pourra enquêter, puis la GRC n'a pas besoin de la permission du gouvernement pour enquêter s'il y a eu des problèmes avec certains appels d'offres et certains programmes.
You said we had all the roads we need. You said we had all the roads we need. You can't stand by that?
Guilbeault making it harder for Toronto MPs to get re-elected. He came out on Monday in English saying no more federal funding for roads, which I'm pretty sure people in the GTA would like to see the feds fund. Yeah. Is he making it a little difficult for you guys?
It doesn't strike me as that way. I hadn't really appreciated that he said what you say he says, but no, we've had an ongoing discussion with the City of Toronto. The federal government has been the municipal government, right, and massive amounts of money into the City of Toronto,
But beyond transit, we're still going to need roads, and you got a Minister of Environment who doesn't want to pay for roads.
Well, I don't think that's the issue. The issue is the amount of money that the City of Toronto gets from the federal government, and it is massive over the last year. We basically have funded a significant part, and certainly during COVID, significant parts of their budget, and we are in ongoing conversations with the mayor.
Mr. McKay, about the whole GC strategies, ArriveCAN tobacco, what's your opinion on this? Should there be more oversight on what happened until now? More than $250 million to the same company.
It needs a thorough look. I mean, there's no doing anything. I don't know what you do about this, but it certainly needs a thorough look.
How do you evaluate that on the scale of,
I don't know.
bad things that happened to the government in the recent years? I mean, it's one of the biggest mismanagement.
On the face of it, you're right, but I don't think there's a scale.
Is it corruption? Your politics says it's corruption.
How concerned are you that this sort of hangs over your government? 140 contracts with $250 million since 2015.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing that does create difficulties for any government. Government functions on trust. Functions on confidence, and on the face of it, this doesn't look good.
And what can the government do?
Well, I'd like an investigation that actually generates real information as opposed to political headlines, and then we'd be doing a service to the people of Canada.
What would that look like?
Well, I would think that it may actually have to be a non-political investigation, because I don't think that the MPs are going to go where the MPs go. But in terms of a deeper dive, I think there needs to be something to look at.
And in like an investigation into the whole government contracts to external consultant firms and all of that. Should the scope of an eventual investigation delve also into that?
I don't know. Like external contracts, it's the way of the world. Get over it. It's just a reality. The government can't be all things to all people at all times, and nor should it be. So you're going to be bringing in external experts, competencies, and it just has to be done properly.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Valdez, can I just get you to talk about Minister Guilbeault's plan to stop all funding for new roads? People in Mississauga, small businesses across the country depend on roads, and you've got an environment minister that told an audience in Montreal, no more federal money for roads and road networks. We've got all the roads we need. Have you had any consultation on that idea?
I have not heard anything specifically, but I'll make sure to pass on the message on to my colleagues.
And how do you stand on that? You think the federal government should fund road network expansion? Highway 409,
Thank you.
Highway 7? Why leave? It's a small business issue. How are the highways in your neck of the woods? I've seen that big reconstruction of the 401, and now your environment minister says no more federal money for highways and roads. He's going to cut off federal money for roads.
Well,
Does that make any sense?
Look, we have, first of all, to answer the first part of your question, yes, we have an amazing development going all the way back to 2016, actually, standing out in a very cold weather day like it is today, announcing those expansions. So we're really hoping just to get those projects finished. It's a long process. The people in my riding are starting to see those open up, so that's a good thing.
But Guilbeault says no more money for those things. Isn't that going to hurt voting prospects? People in Hasburg, Galt, Kitchener. I'm from Guelph. I'm waiting for Highway 7 to get twinned. I mean,
yeah, like I said, we're still waiting to get the projects done that are in process right now. So we'll see moving forward.
Have you told Minister Guilbeault to lay off the ceasing funding of roads?
No, not.
Might it be a good idea?
Not at the moment. Like I said, let's focus on getting the projects done that we have already announced that are already in place. We were moving all the way to 6 lanes in Waterloo region, so looking forward to that.
Here's the transport minister.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Thanks, Minister Guilbeault, I'd like to get you to talk about the eel fishery. There's a lot of talk that the minister is going to close the eel fishery, and that's going to be a big impact in Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. Do you have some thoughts about that particular issue?
As first and foremost, my biggest concern is for the eel population. As a Mi'kmaq person, the eels are integral to our culture. They're integral to the transmission of cultural knowledge. I remember going, just on the Bredora Lakes eel fishing as well with my uncle. It's an important thing to us. And with the Elver fishery coming up, there is a threat because it's such a lucrative industry. It's difficult to tell people. We have to look out for the species when they can make $1,000 in one night. So the question is, how do we best manage that species, knowing it's integral to people and not just putting a price tag on a species that's of that important, but also finding a way to making sure that Indigenous and commercial folks both have the opportunity to be a part of a very lucrative industry, but in a way that ensures that the species' survival in the years to come.
Is this fears of violence justified in your sense?
I think that any time there's a very lucrative market that everyone's fighting for, there's always the threat of violence. I think that's something that we saw in last year's Elver fishery that that we had to do some action on. But I was one of the persons who had to reach out to Mi'kmaq community leaders and say, here's what we're dealing with, here is the potential, and if we don't act within the next 5 years, we could lose this species that we can't replicate. And so it's very important to the Mi'kmaq leaders that I talk to ensure the long-term sustainability of that species.
Thank you very much.
comments on Israel. You're saying Canada should withdraw its blanket support. What do you mean by that?
See, the thing is that, like, with these attacks on Rafah, I think enough is enough. People were told to flee from the north. I think more than half of people living in Gaza are taking refuge in and around like Rafah. And now Rafah is being bombed. People are being killed. So, and Netanyahu is like just dismissing the global concerns. So, like, as people are being bombed, I think people are sick.